the diaspora today, you think these are the people that need to be embraced for going against the grain to make a mark. We were often told to, shove our problems under the carpet, or if someone said something bad about you, not to defend yourself, but just keep quiet, trying to fit in. We were often treated unfairly.
Yeah.
That allowed me to explore the importance of the diaspora and the importance of maintaining one's roots, irrespective of where you're from.
All of them, they made something out of nothing, and many of them, they made huge businesses, huge success stories. Welcome to the show, Paul Lambis.
An award-winning media professional and entrepreneur, creator of Diaspora, an event that allows Cypriots of the diaspora to connect globally.
We make it as accessible as possible to everybody to attend. We want to try through this event, bring the best of the Cypriots worldwide and the Cypriots locally and non-Cypriots that call Cyprus their home.
And what does diaspora mean for you?
I think if you had to ask me 10 years ago, I would say
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Made in Cyprus, the only podcast in English that takes you behind the scene of what it means to create a business, run a business, build a brand, or whatever you want to call it in our Mitziela island. And before we dive into the episode, I want to take 10 seconds of your time. If you're watching this podcast, if you've been watching and following our journey, please make sure you subscribed, you shared, talk to a friend, fax it, email it, message it, whatever it is. Please do take 10 seconds to support us. We are a non-profit podcast. What we do is for the good of the island. Our goal is to promote the island, help shape the island, help rebrand the island, whatnot. So your help will help us keep going. So please do support us. Now, after this slightly boring, long, unusual announcement, we're going to go into another really good episode today with a driving force behind the island as a connector. I'm going to have to read it because this person has done quite a lot. So I highlighted a few things. Award-winning screenwriter, playwright, author, filmmaker, creator and host of Culturescope, a popular series showcasing Cyprus culture and business potential, so hence why is a good fit for this, and a prolific international writer as well. He's also had a couple of very acclaimed theatrical works, including 74, Melina, The Last Great Goodness, and these are shows that have won international recognition as well. He's also the founder of the Cyprus Diaspora Forum, a global platform connecting the doers of the island, an event that will come here in May, so make sure you watch out. So please help me welcome to the show, Paul Lambis.
Martin, thank you. And, after that red carpet treatment, I should be laying the carpet in front of you. But I'm highly appreciative, and thank you very much for the introduction and for the invitation onto your show. Made in Cyprus, it couldn't get better than that.
Well, the Cyprus Diaspora Forum and the Made in Cyprus, I think they're match made in heaven, right? So how does it feel being on the other side of the microphone now? Because I know you do a lot of work on this side of the mic.
I don't like normally being in front of the scenes. I'm more of a behind the scenes person. Yeah. Sometimes I understand you need to step in front of the camera just to try and do the promotional work. But it feels great, because I'm here to talk about a cause that's very, very important to me, an initiative that's bringing people together. And I feel that if you're a catalyst in some type of an event or some type of an initiative, then it's great to talk about it. So It does feel weird, but thank you again for giving me the opportunity.
Let's take a few steps back. So how was being part of the Cyprus diaspora community in Johannesburg?
Great. I think.
You haven't figured it out yet.
Well, the good thing about it, we grew up in a country like South Africa, which was in Johannesburg is where I was born. A multicultural society where there's just this influx of different cultures working together. Of course, we were sort of labeled in South Africa because we were growing up during the apartheid era.
Yeah.
So it was quite difficult trying to fit in. So it was almost like black versus white and almost nothing in between. So we fell into this category of the nothing in between. And that made it even harder to try and carve your identity and make a mark in a society that made you pick either black or white. But as a Greek community, as the Italians, the Armenians, everybody tried to make their mark. And then suddenly when apartheid was, abolished, there was just this rainbow, and that's why they called it the Rainbow Nation, I think, of culture. And then you just wanted to embrace everything. But looking at it as a child, it was quite difficult trying to stand up in a society that was predominantly English or Afrikaans. So I'm sure the black community felt the same way. And it was just basically people coming together to work for the common good, to highlight your identity. And as a Greek, we always felt that we were important. I'm sure the Italians felt the same way. The Israeli community felt the same way. But it was quite nice to celebrate your culture with other people. And when other people embraced that, that made you feel even more important. Yes, difficult to maintain your cultural roots in a foreign country, especially when a lot of things are not easily accessible as they are when you are in Greece or Cyprus. But it was great. It was worth the challenge. And obviously, you give credit to the previous generation that did their best to instill that cultural heritage in you. So, I'm very grateful to my parents for encouraging us, speaking Greek at home, maintaining that identity, maintaining that connection with our ancestral birthplace. So it was great, but it wasn't great at times. But it was challenging, yeah.
Small break from the episode for something really important. If you are in Cyprus and like me, like Factory 39 and like this show, the Made in Cyprus podcast, dream to build the future of Cyprus, to rebrand Cyprus into something more, into truly something small but mighty, I want you to check out the Cyprus Diaspora Forum. From May the 7th to May the 10th, there will be amazing international speakers, keynoters, workshoppers. We will bring together the whole community of the people shaping the future of this island. The Cyprus Diaspora Forum, check it out, and please do help us build the future of Cyprus. Back to the show.
At what point in your journey in South Africa you felt more included into the tissue of society then?
I think it's, again, the choices that you make. If you decide to stand out, then you will stand out. If you choose to integrate, you'll integrate. So I think for me, the turning point was when I went to university, and then suddenly, we were in an environment that was just a melting pot of culture. And then it was great because everybody was there for one common purpose, for education. But then we created these societies where you could stand out and celebrate your culture. And I think that's, for me, was one of the highlights, to be able to say I'm proud to be Greek.
And what made you return to Cyprus then?
Crime.
But you should have told me, because this will be televised.
No. I mean, South Africa is a beautiful place. I mean, it's really a stunning, stunning place. I'm not going to delve into politics. I don't like doing that. But the political situation became a little bit unstable after Nelson Mandela took power. Things were great for a while, but then somehow, somewhere, it just went wrong. And then there was this influx of foreign, can I say that again?
Yeah.
There was just this influx of non-South Africans coming into the country that were not there for the right reasons. Yeah. And I think it's very important to, when you're in a situation and you're opening up your borders, it's very important, once you open up your borders, to be able to sort out home ground first. And we attracted a lot of criminals. Crime went up, to the extent that South Africa became the rape capital of the world, the murder capital of the world. And when you're a minority, as the Greek community was, and, then you start hearing that this one got killed, this one was, for example, raped, or etc., some violent, action was inflicted upon that family, and you hear it regularly, then you start thinking, okay, well, am I just a number in this great scheme of things that's taking place? Is something going to happen to me? And I think that was one of the forces that made us think, and especially when you get married and then you have a child, your responsibilities are different. And then you start thinking of your wife, and you think of your child, and you think, okay, well, I'm no longer responsible for myself. I also have to take into account the security of these other people in my life. And I think that was one of the reasons that said, okay, let's go back to Cyprus. Although, my wife is of Greek origin, So we did look at Greece as well, but something about Cyprus said, you know what, we drive on the same side of the road as South Africa. We speak English. I think it would be much easier to adapt in a place like Cyprus, and also a smaller environment. When you're living in a big metropolis like Johannesburg, we wanted to do the complete 180 and just downscale. And then obviously we witnessed this transition of going from pre-European Union to post-European Union, and now to this dynamic hub that we call home.
What was the hardest thing then, going from a megalopoly to a very mid-sea island?
The silence, I think, you know, and the fact that, you know, we had everything at our doorstep in Johannesburg, and, you know, city life was just amazing. And then suddenly going into this siga attitude, and don't worry, we can leave it until tomorrow, and
or maybe the day after tomorrow,
or the day after,
or maybe the week after the week,
and then, or maybe after a week, it's not necessary to do it.
And then what was it?
Exactly. But I think for me, you know, when we were living in a fast-paced life, and especially in the work environment, when we knew that we rarely took lunch, often we would, you know, grab something to eat and sit at our desk and work. And we never looked at the clock when it was 5 o'clock. If we had something to do, we would just extend it a few more hours. And we still had a perfect work-life balance. And then obviously your weekends was another story. You know, everybody shuts down on the weekend and you enjoy it. I think the one thing that affected me the most, Martin, it was December. And in South Africa, all the businesses shut down in December because it's summertime. So no one would bother you on your phone.
Yeah. Everybody's
on holiday. But then in Cyprus, everybody takes leave at different times of the year. So whether you're sitting in the pool in Ayanapa in August, someone's phoning you to ask you where the file is. And I think that was one of the biggest things I couldn't adapt to, is that you're on holiday, but you're not on holiday. So your mind is always at work.
Yeah.
But yet, we're still blessed to live on an island that allows us to, you know, whatever time you finish work, go to the beach if you want to, or go to the mountains. So, I think that was one of the things that, you know, and the siga attitude, as I said, I think.
Yeah. And you also wrote an interesting book about it, right? Where it's home, and it talks about the identity and all these questions that I have, and that's particularly interesting for me because also my great grandfather Kostan Zarian, he was a prolific Armenian writer, fairly famous, and he also wrote a lot about the what it means to be Armenian, what it means to be Armenian out of Armenia and the diaspora. So where is your home then, and what does diaspora mean for you?
I think the first part of the question, if you had to ask me 10 years ago, I would say London is my home. Because for me, my go-to place is London, where I can escape to the museums. I can escape to a place that's just also full of culture, in my opinion. Love the architecture, love the buildings. So I would say London would be my where is home. But I think that's changed. So I think as humans, we're also nomads, so we tend to adapt accordingly, and circumstances and life, gets in the way, and that changes your mindset. But I think, if I could just take it one step back, the where is home for me was actually a therapeutic process of writing that book, because I was involved in a near-fatal car accident in 2008. So I was confined to a hospital bed for a very long time, and then with the thought that you would never walk again. So it was quite a serious accident, but there is humor to it, because they always say that women can multitask, and this is nothing sexist, but the woman that drove into me was talking on her phone and smoking a cigarette and driving. So I don't think multitasking in that sense works.
No, holy shit.
But I remember one friend visiting me at the hospital, and she said to me, well, you've got all this time now. And bear in mind, I was in the Buffos General Hospital with no internet and no television. So I thought, one of the as a healing process, it would be nice to write down your experiences so that you could help someone that's in a similar situation. But when I started writing, I realized that, maybe I should take a step back and find out what led me to this point. And then I started doing that. And then I went further back, and I said, let's go back to the beginning. What made me who I am? why did I make certain decisions to go from A to B, B to C, and C to D? What led me to Cyprus? And then that helped me to go back to the beginning, to tap into my heritage. I was an overweight boy growing up in South Africa, so that's, throwing now the fact that I couldn't speak English, overweight, Greek speaking, and trying to integrate into society and not stand out. I remember my mother used to leave me at school and say, try to fit in. But I would go to school and I would stand out because they all knew who that big guy was on the playground. But, once you go back, you explore your roots, and then you start appreciating this fight that the previous generation made or did to move from a country like Cyprus to come to a foreign country, not understand a word, try and fit in, try and become, and work hard. And not only that, they were also sending money back to Cyprus to support the families that were, suffering from the war before 1974 and after. So it was a very, when you look at their sacrifices and you realize the resilience of these people, and leaving a place like Cyprus and scattering to all the four corners of the globe and having to carve their own identity. And then here we were born, and suddenly we knew there was the Cypriot Culture Club and the Italian Society, and we just took it for granted that these things were just there. But it was a fight to establish them there. And not only that, also your churches and your community centers and the schools. All that while they were trying to identify, and settle into a new country where they were often also treated unfairly.
Yeah.
That allowed me to explore the importance of the diaspora and the importance of maintaining one's roots, irrespective of where you're from. We take it for granted, I think, nowadays when we live in a modern society and we say, oh, I'm of, like in your case, Armenian descent, or I'm of, Cypriot descent. And we're living about our lives and we're working in our companies and we're doing whatever we're doing. And then if you take one step back and you realize, for me to get here, it took a whole fleet of people to change the mindset at that time. To come and establish roots in a foreign country, and then to allow us to have that option to then decide, do I stay in that foreign country or do I come back? I think that's incredible.
Yeah. And
the Cypriots of the diaspora, and generally the diaspora that are all over the world, have this emotional connection to their country, but I take my hat off to them, because irrespective if they're working a fish and chip shop in the UK, or they pioneering in industries such as medicine, real estate, or energy or tech, all these individuals are creating a path for the future generation. And then you give credit to those little people that boarded a ship, that were able to bring them back to that point. So, when you look at the diaspora today, you think these are the people that need to be embraced for economic diplomacy, for security diplomacy, for their business and work ethic, for going against the grain to make a mark. And these are the people that we encourage to come back to Cyprus so that we can, bridge that gap, work with them, learn from them, but they also can learn from us, because we're also a new generation that's come to Cyprus that's, looked at, I don't know how long you've been here, we've been here for 25 years, but we've experienced that evolution of the little Chorio, the little village, to this modern metropolis that's mushrooming by day, called Limassol. And all this, I don't like using the word foreign, but the non-Cypriots that are coming here and are embracing their home, and now they are diasporans to their respective countries. All these people play a vital role in this beautiful landscape that we call Cyprus.
Yeah.
So Cypriots for me, non-Cypriots, the diaspora are very important, and we need to give more attention and credit there where it's due.
Yeah, it's wonderful that introspection that you did, and it's a luck and a curse in a way, right? That you had the time to reflect on that, because I'm half Armenian, half Estonian. I'm always been an immigrant. We immigrated. Like my great grandfather, he escaped the Armenian genocide from Constantinople to Rome. That's why my father was born. Then he went back into Armenia because all Armenians go back.
Yes.
They have to go back where it's almost like salmons. They live all their life in the ocean and they need to go back where they were first born. That's the power of the Armenian diaspora. They all have this connection. And when I remember similarly to you, when I was growing up, I grew up in Venice, which is, if you think that Cyprus is an island, go and live in Venice. Venice is a city that is an island.
Yes.
And it's the extreme of the island mentality. There is only one bridge that connects the island to the rest of Veneto, to the rest of North Italy. And a lot of Venetians say that after the bridge there is nothing. I have people that I know, they never left Venice. They're so in sync with the island. And we, in the early 90s, me and my brother were the only ones basically that had a different name, different surname. And all I wanted to do is be just an Andrea, a Marco, a Filippo, a normal guy,
Yes.
And I hid my identity for the longest time, that mix that I had, because also, to make that even more complex, my grandfather was from Siberia, my grandmother from Germany, so it's really, really mixed. All I wanted to do is be a normal, simple Italian, right? So even more Venetian. It took me a really long time to understand the power and the strength that immigrants have. And what you said about the Cypriot diaspora, it's really interesting because they are 99% entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Almost all of them, they made something out of nothing. And many of them, they made huge businesses, huge success stories.
It's a fascinating. I mean, I like what you said now. The fact that you were in Venice and you wanted to become a Venetian.
Yeah.
Yet, when you look at Venice's history,
Yeah.
it's also
There is no Venetian.
There is, it's a mixed. It's also a melting pot of culture, and there's even a hint of Cypriot. Yeah. In that there as well. I mean, don't forget we were under Venetian rule for a while. Yeah. But it's amazing because, maybe I sometimes question it, why we are sometimes embarrassed of our identity as children. And I think the previous generation didn't allow us to embrace it enough sometimes. We were often told to, shove our problems under the carpet, or if someone said something bad about you, not to defend yourself, but just keep quiet. And I get all that. I understand,
that's more fitting in mentality.
Trying to fit in.
Right?
Yeah. In case somebody says something or in case you cause an issue.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you come to Cyprus, and I often joke with my Cypriot friends, is that when I speak Greek to them, because I'm fluent in Greek, they answer in English. And I think maybe my accent gives it away that I wasn't born and bred in Cyprus. But it's amazing. And I used to say, are they trying to show off that they do know English so that they can make me feel comfortable? But I think what it is, it's a common courtesy that they have as Cypriots, that if they know your language, they want to speak it so that you feel comfortable. So it's not really, and that's what I like about Cyprus. Whereas you go to other countries around Europe, stunning countries, but they refuse to speak a word of English, or, but then when they hear your language, they suddenly turn to, if they know, like the one word or two, they'll try and make you feel at home. Where is home? Back to that, I don't know. At this moment, it's Cyprus. I love Cyprus, but who knows what the future will bring.
Yeah, interesting. And what's the main reason of the Cyprus Diaspora Forum? That what inspired you to kick that off?
Well, as I said, I've been on this island just over 23 years, and I've kept strong connections with Cypriots of the diaspora. Primarily, it was the South Africans, but then when I started my program during the COVID era. I was connecting with a lot of Cypriots internationally, and then writing for several publications. I enjoyed doing interviews and understanding what's making them tick, how are they carving their mark in a foreign country, why haven't they relocated, or are they planning to relocate? So it was understanding the mindset of the diaspora. And as you rightfully said, the majority are pioneers. They've done amazing things. And I'm not excluding the ones that haven't, because I think everybody has done something for them to be in another country. They made that move. So what I looked in is I was talking, for example, one morning to a doctor that, delves into fetal medicine. And then half an hour later, I was speaking to a guy that's, he's got a plant-based company in Australia, and a Tokyo company invested 1.8 billion in his company, and he's Cypriot. And I'm thinking, wow, these are the people that we have there overseas that in one way or another they're influencers, because in my opinion, a person that's at the top of, let's say, the pinnacle, the pyramid, he's got like-minded people next to him, he's got networks, he's got investors next to him. So what a perfect opportunity, because the one question I would ask them is, why, have you ever considered coming back to Cyprus or imparting the knowledge that you have with Cypriots? And they would all say, Cyprus is for holiday. Cyprus is the place I come to relax. So the narrative is Cyprus is for sun and sea. And then I would talk to them about, by the way, do you know what's happening on the island in terms of technology, in terms of innovation, the gaming industry, filming industry, and the government's creating all these incentives to attract investment into the country. Some said, yes, I'm aware of it, but they didn't know too much about it. Or some just said, well, I come to Cyprus for the holidays and to eat my pizza with souvlaki.
It's fascinating. We spend so much time and effort to import foreign talent. Why are we not spending some of that effort to import back the talent that went outside?
Well, you see, this was one of the questions, we had. And then we saw it firsthand with our son. Our son went to study abroad. He invested a lot into the film industry. He's now working for a very big company in the UK.
So he was born in Cyprus?
Yeah, no, he was born in South Africa. Yeah. And we came to Cyprus when he was 2 years old.
Yeah.
And then he went to study, obviously, because the courses that were offered here weren't exactly what he wanted to do. Now, of course, they do offer them. And he went and he studied there, and then he found a great opportunity to work in a media company that deals with all the trailers for credible film companies. So he said that the experience that he would gain working there would be far bigger. And not only that, the financial aspect of it. So the question there was, okay, are we creating enough opportunity for our own Cypriots to relocate back to Cyprus? So we've got this young generation that's leaving, and the brain drain is just constantly expanding. But on the other end, the brain drain is narrowing, because we're making it appealing for the foreigners to come. And again, I don't like using the word foreigners, because I do believe whoever comes here, contributes to Cyprus's development. So why not get the best of both worlds? Because, all these non-Cypriots are bringing another mindset and a different type of knowledge. And imagine merging the one with the other, how dynamic we could be, even more dynamic than what we are.
Yeah.
So the Cyprus Diaspora Forum, its primary aim is obviously to reach out to these high net worth individuals of the diaspora that are pioneering in various industries and sectors, with their investors, with their networks, and invite them to come to Cyprus, but then to showcase that Cyprus can support the industries, and we have the talent here to support it. So that's why we then reach out to certain organizations or companies, whether they are non-Cypriot or Cypriot, but they are based in Cyprus. So let me just rephrase that. If it's non-Cypriots, but they are running a Cypriot-based organization.
They have an office or the...
Yes, exactly.
So some of the operations are from here.
So why not bring them, because they can offer first-hand experience of what it's like living in Cyprus as a non-Cypriot.
Look, here's the proof.
Because the Cypriots of the diaspora, in one way or another, haven't lived and worked in Cyprus, unless they've got some, business.
So that's the gap then. The current person in the Cyprus diaspora, wherever they are, they don't fully understand how much Cyprus evolved and what is going on in terms of socio-economical business kind of
I think that the ones that are at the top get it, but the thing is, it's also nice to bring them up to date with what's happening on the island.
Yeah.
So when they come to the forum, It's this beautiful Cypriot culture that comes in from abroad. And let's not forget that the diaspora maintain the Cypriot heritage more than what we do here, because here it's easily accessible. So, and I'm speaking from experience because I am a diasporan myself to South Africa.
Yeah, I remember I was working on a project not long ago on a new fuku, a smart focus to make Suvla and Sulaki and everything. And the biggest competitor and the most successful competitor were Cypriots out of Australia.
Yes.
So they evolved the Fuku, they had it smart, and then they had all this beautiful technology around it. And as you said, we kind of here in Cyprus, even though I'm not a Cypriot, I always say we kind of gave it for granted, and we still have our old trusted rusty Fuku.
Because it's easily accessible.
But the Australians almost held their tradition closer to them, and they evolved it in a way.
Well, they've revolutionized the Fuku
it's
business.
brilliant. Imagine that. The
Yeah.
Fuku innovation, you will think is coming from within. No, it's actually coming from outside.
I know. I mean, I even saw at one stage there was a church fete in South Africa, and the Fuku was on a Ferris wheel type of a thing, and it was it was going around in circles, cooking 3 times the amount of meat.
God bless the Fuku.
Exactly. So the good thing about what we see, Martin, which is very nice, is that when the Cypriots of the diaspora come to Cyprus at the forum, and we put them together with the locals and obviously the non-Cypriots, in panel discussions, workshops. We also invite prominent Cypriots to give fireside chats. We then see a lot of foreign interest from countries all over Europe, Australia, South Africa, this year especially the GCC countries and the MENA region as well, and the UK, wanting to come to the forum. Why? Because it's another thing when a Cypriot from the diaspora that's highly influential endorses Cyprus. And it's also another thing when a non-Cypriot advocates for Cyprus and says, well, for us, it's worked.
Yeah.
So the foreign interest comes to the event. And the reason why the Diaspora Forum was a success is because we presented a comprehensive event. It wasn't just an event focused on real estate, tech, which the events that are happening in Cyprus are phenomenal. They're really setting the bar. But what happens is someone that's looking to relocate, for example, to Cyprus, whether it's an investor or an individual representing a lot of foreign investors, they come to Cyprus and they listen to a discussion on real estate, for example. And then right after that, there's a discussion on the legal aspect of Cyprus. So they get that information as well. And then obviously someone that's looking to relocate that might have a family, he or she might look at education, healthcare, and a lot of other things that are important to them. So when you're at the forum over these days, you get first-hand knowledge of what's going on. The ministers, deputy ministers attend because they also give us an update of what's going on within each industry or sector. We have a lot of people moderating, some international, some local, that are highly experienced individuals. And then over the 4 days, because we also integrate social events as well, a different type of a family is formed, and there's a different type of a trust that develops over Cyprus. And it's not so much about the political situation, it's more about the business side of things. And that's why the event comes from the private sector, and it has to be from the private sector. It is supported by the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce, Invest Cyprus, and a lot of other organizations such as Tech Island and Cyprus Seeds. And then as an opportunity, we also want to give voice to small, medium enterprises and also startups to come to this forum where the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce will be presenting a pitching event for small, medium enterprises to potential investors. Because some investors might, want to just test the ground, and they might not want to bring a lot of money initially. So they say, okay, let's test it with a smaller company and see how that goes. And then the startups, because we also want to appeal to the next generation or people that have developed great initiatives that, again, will revolutionize, Cyprus's business or tech landscape, hopefully like the Fuku in Australia. And they get an opportunity to do a launch pad, again, with a select few of startups. And we make it as accessible as possible to everybody to attend. But obviously, as a private organization, we're also a non-profit. The difficulty and the challenge is always trying to raise the funds to stage an event like this.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful that we have a strong team that supports it and we're able to do it.
So, Paul, what's the main issue, I'll say, for lack of a better word, on trying to attract more of these very successful people to come back into Cyprus? And is the government doing anything? Because I know the government is doing a lot of tax benefits and relocation benefits, but they're mostly targeted for foreigners, right? So there is a clear magnet put out of the island to attract foreigners. We are not attracting the people that were originally from here, again, for a lack of better word.
I can't really answer that because, I think, and I don't want to put the government against the wall, at gunpoint, because I think they've got the hardest job when you take over a country and you have to pick up where someone else left off and try and fix things up. But the most encouraging thing that I saw recently was President Nikos Christodoulidis announcing that he's going to be going to the UK now, I think it was April or May, where he's going to be appealing to a lot of UK Cypriots, and they've formed an attractive package to help people relocate. And I'm seeing the same thing that's going to follow in the United States, and I'm sure at some point Australia and South Africa and other places around the world. So for me, that was like, I said bravo, because, the Cypriots of the diaspora, as I said, are influential. And when you create something attractive enough, they'll want to come home. Everybody wants to return back to Cyprus. And especially the way Cyprus is at the moment, why wouldn't you want to come? It's great. And I think they all want to be part of it. I think sometimes what holds them back is if they've got big businesses and it's very difficult to leave. But I think, the world has changed, and you can be based anywhere in the world and have a business in any other corner of the world. And I think that, I don't know exactly what the packages are, but I'm kind of hoping it will also make it attractive for resettlement, property, etc., etc. But I'm very, very glad that something like that is taking place. So what could the government do? I think they're doing enough already to create those incentives, because those incentives are available to also the Cypriots that want to relocate. But I think the one thing where I would say is just to relook at the strategy on tourism, because I think we are promoting Cyprus incorrectly, where we could be promoting it in a very strategic way to highlight that Cyprus is the gaming capital now, the tech industry is happening here, the real estate is, and look what's going on around us. So I think if we approached it more from a strategic point of view, because everybody knows that Cyprus has sun and sea. Yeah. We need to differentiate from what other countries are doing. So with all due respect, you could find the sun and sea in Greece, you can find it in Malta, you can go to Italy. How does Cyprus differentiate? And
we have Cheftalia here, obviously.
Yeah, you can get Cheftalia, yeah, of course, and the best in the world. I mean, yeah, you spoiled for choice, but actually you said halloumi. I don't understand why it's the most expensive product in Cyprus.
Fuck it, yes. It's like
when it can be, it's cheaper overseas.
It is 15 euros for a pack.
I just don't get it.
I really like halloumi, but when I see the price, I'm like, no.
I know.
What? I don't get, and it's made here.
It is made in Cyprus.
It's actually cheaper in UK. I don't know.
I don't know if you've noticed, like when you go to a souvlaki and you ask for a beta souvlaki mix or whatever the case is, and then they go, if you just want with halloumi and lunza, they're all the same price, which actually says a lot about our product.
I don't know. It's interesting. I love what you said about the we should change the tourism strategy, because yes, there is sun, there is good food, we're hospitable, we drive on the British way, we speak the British language, it's a good place for retirement and everything. Allah stamada, like we're tired with this narrative. I mean, this narrative is being said the same since the TV came into existence and the radio came into the existence, right? Why are we not talking about that we are Mitzilarozi? Why are we not talking about that we are the world and European capital for gaming companies, that the most successful fintech companies are in here, that we have an incredible tissue of mid-sized businesses and service businesses. There are amazing foreign smart people now in there. There is so much going on. like we it's half of the island. Like in terms of like actual physical size, it's so small, but it's a really good performing European country, and in the top 5 and in some places in the number 1 places in some of the economical market is astonishing. Why are we not talking about that?
Well, even look at the wine industry of Cyprus. Okay, as a South African, I always used to advocate for South African wines.
Yeah,
We've got great wines. But then you come to Cyprus and then you realize, okay, the oldest wine in the world is Commandaria.
Yeah.
It was founded in Cyprus. It was known as the wine for kings. Richard the Lionheart had it at his wedding. And then, the way you could market that as Cyprus for wine, as a wine destination.
Yeah.
You'll attract another type of a tourist there.
Yeah.
Then you look at, for agro-tourism. I think they're doing an amazing thing there. But for people that are into this sustainability and they're into this new way or this new type of tourism, I don't see anything saying how Cyprus is taking old villages, fixing up and renovating, and allowing people to come and experience that old village experience.
Yeah.
Maybe they've done it, and I don't know. I haven't seen it. And
there's a lot going on in Paphos. Yeah. But again, we talk about always the same shit. That's the reality. We don't talk about the other things. And the reason why we started this podcast is for that, right? Because myself as non-Cypriot, I realized, wow, there is so much potential. Some of the people are doing incredible stuff. And the first couple of episodes were solely our clients, right? Because I was lucky enough to understand what they're doing, and I said, wow, and no one talks about it. We talk about real estate. You see real estate on the highways. Again, sure, great, but there is way more.
Of course, there's a lot more.
Way more.
I mean, let's also look at the traditions and the cultural. For example, the weaving of Cyprus, which is it's almost about to be like wiped off the radar.
Yeah.
And instead of I know that they're creating a lot of classes to pass on this tradition, which is one of the reasons because like we visited Fiti, the village,
yes,
where we actually interviewed the woman there at the Fitiotico Weaving Center. And it was a mother and it was a daughter and then it was the granddaughter. And it was actually very nice to see how this tradition and this craft is being passed down. And, and I don't think we do enough to promote it, but that's why we've brought an element of Fitiotica back into the Diaspora Forum. It's on the website. And we want to try through this event to not only bring the best of the Cypriots worldwide and the Cypriots locally and the non-Cypriots that call Cyprus their home into this event. We also want to maintain that cultural tradition and the heritage that we've got in Cyprus that makes us Cypriots. And that's why we bring in those little elements. Last year we had the olive. This year we're celebrating the orange and the lemon, but in a tasteful, modern way. But yet it's still our culture, and
it's beautiful.
It's lovely, and that's what makes us proud.
Isn't it funny then a non-Cypriot immigrant and a diaspora person are talking about this stuff on an English podcast in Limassol?
I do find it, I think it is funny, but you know what the thing is, Martin? When we were in South Africa, I remember we used to drive around, and if we saw a Cypriot or a Greek flag on the car, beep, beep, we would hoot, we would drive fast to try and catch up to them so we could see if we knew the people that were in the car. Or if we suddenly walked into a supermarket and there was halva sitting on the table and it says from Greece, you would phone all your neighbors and your relatives and say, go and buy the halva. Or you would buy it for them and go and give it to them. So I feel now it's the other end of the spectrum. Now we're in Cyprus. When I see South Africans, we try and embrace them. We want to find out where they're from. But we all hear the same narrative there that, they're escaping crime or they wanted to come back. But then we yearn for that thirst that we had in a foreign country, now in Cyprus. And I think that's one thing that we want to bring back.
Very interesting take. Because the diaspora people living abroad, they become natural connectors. And then when they come back at home, let's say, they remain connectors and they connect all the rest. But also it's like what you said at the beginning, that there is a lot of stuff that we give for granted. Yeah. And I think a lot of Mediterranean countries, I don't know if you will agree with it, and especially in Italy, we like to spit on the plate that feeds us. we like to talk about the negatives, and like we're just caught up into the work life. We don't really appreciate the superpowers and the beautifulness of the country that we live into it. So it's much easier to talk about the negatives. But then when you leave, then when you start realizing, oh, there were so many good things. Oh, I miss it, right? And then when you come back, you want to do something about it.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because I'll give you an example, if I may. In Cyprus, a bakery will open on the street, and directly opposite another bakery will open. In Paphos, there's actually one bakery that opened right next door to the other bakery.
Yeah, here as well.
And you think, okay, how is that going to benefit you? Because when you look at the demographics or you look at the statistics, there's an X number of cars that are going to drive past that road on a daily basis. Unless you get someone visiting from another town, that's one or two extra. So you're not gaining more, you are dividing, or you're gaining a piece of that pie. So that's what, as someone that's got an advertising background, I always think, how do I differentiate? Or how do I work together with a company that's opened up a bakery? What can I put next door that while those people come to the bakery, they can also come to me? And then you get an equal amount of the pie.
Yeah.
So I saw this in when we took our theatrical production to New York. And we went the one Sunday, we were invited by the Cypriots of the diaspora, and we went to this very up-and-coming brunch spot in Astoria. And we were standing, the queue was basically going round the block, because it was a Sunday, church had just finished, and everybody was queuing up just to go and have a breakfast. So obviously we knew the owner, he let us in, and I noticed exactly opposite, there was an empty plot of land. And I said to the guy, if you were in Cyprus, somebody would probably open up a brunch spot right opposite. And he says, well, you know what actually happened here? And an Israeli guy came up to me and he said, all these people that are standing in the queues, they've parked their cars 5 blocks down. So I'm going to create a parking lot here to accommodate the people that are standing in those queues.
Ding, 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 ding.
And he then goes, okay, so it's not competitive, but it's contributing, and then everybody wins. And I don't know why, this is the one thing I do notice, is that we're not here to add or contribute, we're here to take away. And it's really, that is the one thing that really does upset me. But when you come to events like the Diaspora and you see that he's contributing in one way, and then we bridge the local organization that can add to, then imagine how effective we are when we're all aligned and we're all working together.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And again, goes back into that, if you're a foreigner and you went outside, you had that anger and the desire and sometimes the absolute necessity to go into an entrepreneurial mindset, right? So that's how you come. Whether here, I think you gave it for granted, and instead of unlocking an entrepreneurial mindset, you unlock a competitive mindset.
Yes.
Right? And you're absolutely right. It's a really small island, but we have so many different startup incubators, so many different design associations. There is one in Paphos, one in Limassol, one in Larnaca, one in Nicosia, all competing for each other. Whether we could have just done one and unite everything. So in a funny way, Cyprus is even more divided beyond Nicosia being cut in two. There is Paphos, there is Larnaca, there is Nicosia, and there is Limassol, and then there are the villages. And I haven't fully comprehended why we are so divided and sometimes protecting our own turf. And instead of using the collaboration C, we use the other C, the competition, which is a bit sad.
And it's not healthy competition.
It's not.
But
everyone is suffering from it.
It is. And that's why I encourage people like Sir Stelios Hagianou, who is actually going to be awarded at the forum this year for his work for philanthropy. And of course, he's created this initiative that encourages bi-communal projects. So his mindset is that if people work together, they can achieve great things. Yeah. And I do believe that. I do believe that, if we come and we take the best of the best from each other and we put it in one ecosystem, it'll work. Yeah. I know that I'm creating maybe utopia or a fantasy land, some people might say that, but ultimately it's about extracting the best from somebody else and adding onto, not taking away.
100%.
And we used to see that as well in South Africa. The Cypriot club was one of the best country clubs in Johannesburg, and yet after every president's term was up, then he would come and destroy what the other one had built. And we kept on seeing the swimming pool going around in all corners of the garden over a period of 16 years. And we didn't know the one year whether we would swim on the left side of the country club or back in the right, you know. And it was just sad, because if we added on to that, and then it's unfortunate that I hear that the country club now is not in a good state. And you think, well, it could have been, but it's not. And I get it that also South Africa is one of those rare cases where a lot of Cypriots have left due to the crime. And, you know, obviously the next generation then integrates with other cultures. And if it's not up to the end of parents to insist and enforce it, it'll die out eventually. And the lack of interest, I get that. But we have to do our part, Martin. We have to play a role in maintaining our cultural identity, irrespective where we are in this world.
100%. So, Paul, tell us a bit more about the Cyprus Diaspora Forum, and meaning, like, when is it? How can people participate? How can people support? What can they expect? Tell us what's going on.
Okay, the event takes place over 4 days. It's this year it's going to be from the 7th until the 10th of May. The first day will be a cocktail event in the evening, which will invite all our sponsors, our speakers, government representatives. This year we're very privileged to have Anita Dimitriou, who's the President of the House of Representatives, who's going to be doing the officiating the ceremony. We have the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce, the Cyprus Research and Innovation Foundation, and a lot of organizations that will be present there, where we will be mapping out how the forum's going to work over the next 2 days, with a lot of surprises in store, which obviously tech-related and non-tech related, but with culture at the forefront.
Yeah.
So that's on the 7th. And then the 8th and the 9th, we've created 2 dynamic, impactful days of workshops, keynote speeches, panel discussions, covering almost all of Cyprus's industries and sectors. That will be happening in parallel rooms, so parallel discussions. So if energy, for example, is in the one room, culture and arts will be in the other, so they're not conflicting discussions. However, every single one of those discussions will be recorded and will be available at a later date for people that didn't get to see one or the other. So over those 2 days, attendees can network. They will have first-hand encounters with very prominent Cypriots and non-Cypriots of the diaspora. We're also very proud to have the Serhant group this year coming over, who are obviously from the Netflix series Owning Manhattan.
Yep.
And they'll be giving their input, and they're going to be doing a workshop on why we should take real estate to the next level. And I think it would work well for Cyprus, because we are a real estate driven
like 18%
country.
of the GDP.
Exactly. Yeah. So apart from that, we've also got a lot of people that are non-Cypriots that are going to come and offer mentorships. But we are celebrating also Cypriots of the diaspora that have contributed in a very impactful way, not only abroad, but also contributing towards Cyprus. So that is the one side of the thing. And then we've created a lot of social activities after hours, where people can just basically put their pens down and relax. Very Cypriot, with the Cypriot culture at the forefront.
Amazing.
Plus, we've also created a separate section for the students this year. So on the Friday, because we thought it's a more relaxed day and before their exams, they can participate in 2 workshops that have been designed exclusively for them. And they can come and they can basically be, for example, in a roundtable discussion with a very famous Cypriot or non-Cypriot that will be mentoring them in a specific sector. So that allows them to gain first-hand advice from people like Peter Abraham, who's the growth strategic officer for the Royal Group in Abu Dhabi, but he's got extensive experience with the Grand Prix in Sydney and a lot of other high-profile events.
Wow.
We were fortunate also, like last year, to have Panos Panay, who's the president of the Grammy Awards, and obviously Theo Pafitis, who was the Dragon's Den. John Christodoulou, who's pioneering with the Marriott hotels and Sir Stelio
you
Hadjiano.
landed amazing name.
Yeah,
Wow.
so, and Dr. Linda Papadopoulos, who's a renowned television clinical psychologist, plus a lot of other people. Like the interest this year is coming from the Barulis group, which their father will actually be honored for his contribution as a Cypriot of the diaspora. These are people that are in the mining industry, and they've also done a lot of philanthropic work. I'm very happy to say, and first on your podcast, that there will be 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards given out this year. The one is a posthumous award that will be given to George Michael from Wham, to celebrate his, what he stood for, and there's a lot of exciting things that are happening there. And then the other Lifetime Achievement Award, which I don't want to announce yet, is for a very prominent medical an individual from the medical industry.
Amazing.
So a lot of things are happening, and you get to interact with these individuals. And the good thing about it is, because they've embraced this event as something that will put Cyprus on the map, you can walk around and literally tap them on the back and say, can I have 5 minutes of your time? And they are so open and receptive to giving out advice. And for that reason, we've also created 2 separate rooms where people can go in and have private discussions if they want. Obviously, their time is limited, but they are not, the sticky persona that doesn't want to, assist.
Well, really busy days, right?
They're busy days, and then we end them off, obviously, with social activities.
Amazing.
We've actually done a very nice little culinary workshop as well. So we've got an organization that is based in Cyprus that is producing, they are diasporans, and they're producing plant-based foods. So we thought, what a great opportunity to get Amara's executive chef to come with one of our Master Chef finalists, Tavris Yu and Farah Shamas, who is, a plant enthusiast and vegan, etc., to get them on board to do like a cooking workshop as a fun end to the event.
Brilliant.
And we're also showcasing 3 documentaries at the K Cineplex that are all fantastic documentaries. All of this is available on the site. If you go under events, they're under social. We've got a golf event that's taking place on the Saturday, which is a nice challenge for investors meeting Cypriots on the golf course. And for those that aren't golf enthusiasts, they can go up to Omodos and taste wine at...
you'll see me there.
So you'll probably go there. And this is all happening while we are setting up for the gala dinner, which takes place on the final night.
Amazing.
And the gala dinner is obviously, it includes the Cydia Awards, which are... Cypriots and non-Cypriots around the world get to nominate individuals in different categories. The nominations are still open, so people can go on the site and nominate. And then obviously it goes down to the final 4 in each category, and then everybody can vote. And after the Cydia Awards ceremony, which is run very strictly, almost like the Oscars, we don't waste time. We get into the show, we do the awards. There's a nice live concert at the end. So we're really looking forward to.
Looks
to
like an amazing agenda.
And it's open to everybody. Whoever wants to buy a ticket, it's online.
What's the website for the ticket?
It's CyprusDiasporaForum.com.
Brilliant.
So you just go on there. We've got preferential rates as well for students, as I mentioned. If the students want to come on both days, then there's a different rate. Those obviously we deal with privately, because obviously it requires their student cards, and because of GDPR, we don't want to share that online.
If you're a student, reach out.
Yeah.
Paul, thank you very much. Good luck with the Diaspora Forum. This was a match made in purpose, because this podcast and the Diaspora Forum is very, very aligned. Like we're happy to be supporters of the initiative. I'll be there all days as well.
I'm looking forward to that, and I can imagine what you're going to bring to the table.
I'm not sure it's secret. We'll see about that. It's in development. Thank you very much for your time.
I thank you.
And thank you very much for listening, for watching. Remember to support, subscribe, and remember to check Paul Lambis' work as well. Go on the Diaspora Forum, check his books, check his theatrical work. Lots of interesting stuff in there. And I'll see you next time.